Hello, friends, and welcome everyone. Today, I want to talk about a topic that is becoming extremely important in the global technology landscape. It's about IT leadership and transformation in the GCC ecosystem. Over the last few years, global capability centers have evolved significantly. Earlier, organizations built GCC primarily for cost efficiency and delivery scalability. Today, expectations are completely different. Companies now expect GCC to drive innovation, AI adoption, cybersecurity leadership, product engineering ownership, and even influence global strategy. And this is where many experienced managers struggle during leadership interviews. They speak about delivery excellence, SLAS, and operations, while interviewers are evaluating strategic thinking, business impact, and leadership maturity. So in this video, I'll walk you through some of the most relevant leadership interview questions being asked in the GCC market today, that too along with practical, human answers that demonstrate transformation leadership. Question 1. What is your vision for a modern GCC? When I think about a modern GCC, I don't see it as an offshore delivery arm anymore. I see it as a strategic extension of the enterprise. My vision is always to move the organization through three phases. First, establish operational excellence so the business trusts the center. Second, build capability ownership where teams are responsible not only for execution but also for outcomes. And finally, position the GCC as an innovation hub contributing to global decision making. A successful GCC should eventually become a place where new ideas originate and not just where tasks are executed. Honestly, the moment headquarters begins involving the GCC in strategy conversations rather than status reviews, you know transformation is working. And sometimes I say this jokingly, if your leadership still introduces the GCC as our offshore team, then culturally the journey hasn't even begun. Question 2. How do you start a transformation program in a GCC? Transformation does not begin with technology, it begins with clarity. My first step is always understanding business expectations. What problems are we solving? Faster time to market? Innovation? Customer experience? Without that clarity, transformation becomes a collection of disconnected initiatives. The second step is conducting an honest maturity assessment across people, processes, and platforms. Many organizations underestimate this stage because it exposes uncomfortable truths. Then I focus on early wins. Transformation needs visible momentum. Delivering quick, meaningful improvements builds confidence across stakeholders and reduces resistance. One mistake I frequently observe is organizations launching multiple transformation programs simultaneously without aligning leadership behavior. Technology changes quickly, leadership mindset takes longer. Question 3. How do you balance cost efficiency and innovation? This is probably the most common question in today's GCC interviews because companies want both efficiency and innovation. My philosophy is simple: efficiency funds innovation. I begin by stabilizing operations through automation, standardization, and platform consolidation. Once repetitive work is reduced, teams gain capacity to think creatively and focus on higher value initiatives. Innovation cannot happen when teams are constantly firefighting operational issues. Sometimes leaders say, we want innovation, but teams are overloaded with operational tickets. That creates frustration. Innovation requires psychological space, time to experiment, fail, and learn. Question 4. How do you make a GCC strategically relevant to global leadership? Strategic relevance comes from business alignment, not technical excellence alone. I encourage GCC leaders to deeply understand revenue models, customer journeys, and market challenges faced by the organization. Instead of waiting for requirements, I promote proactive engagement with global stakeholders. When GCC leaders start bringing solutions before problems are formally assigned, perceptions change dramatically. Over time, the conversation shifts from, can the GCC deliver this, to, what does the GCC recommend? That shift represents true leadership influence. Question 5. What transformation mistakes do organizations commonly make? One major mistake is equating digital transformation with tool implementation. Organizations migrate to cloud platforms or introduce AI solutions but continue operating with old governance models and legacy decision-making structures. Transformation is fundamentally about changing how decisions are made, how teams collaborate, and how value is delivered. I often say, moving to cloud without changing culture is simply relocating problems to a new environment. Real transformation requires leadership courage to rethink processes that have existed for years. Question 6. How do you lead global and hybrid teams effectively? Hybrid work has fundamentally changed leadership expectations. Visibility no longer comes from physical presence, it comes from clarity and communication. I focus heavily on outcome-based leadership rather than activity-based supervision. Teams should understand goals clearly and feel trusted to deliver results. I also prioritize regular leadership engagement, and not just operational reviews but meaningful conversations about challenges, growth, and innovation. One honest realization during hybrid transformation was this: remote work didn't create leadership problems, it exposed leadership gaps that already existed. Question 7. How do you approach AI adoption within GCC? Answer for your reference. AI adoption must be treated as an organizational capability rather than an isolated initiative. I typically establish an AI governance framework, invest in workforce upskilling, and identify practical use cases aligned with business outcomes. The goal is augmentation, enabling employees to work smarter rather than creating fear about job replacement. Many organizations announce AI strategies publicly while internal teams are still figuring out data quality and process maturity. Sustainable AI transformation requires patience and disciplined execution. Question 8. How do you attract and retain top GCC talent? Answer: talent retention today is less about compensation and more about purpose and growth. Professionals want ownership, learning opportunities, and visibility. I ensure employees see clear career paths, leadership development opportunities, and exposure to global initiatives. Creating psychological safety is equally important. People perform best when they feel comfortable sharing ideas and challenging assumptions. In my experience, high-performing GCCs succeed because leaders invest in people development as seriously as they invest in technology platforms. Question 9. What differentiates a GCC leader from a traditional IT leader? Sample answer: a traditional IT leader focuses on operational excellence and technology delivery. A GCC leader must operate at the intersection of business strategy, talent development, and global collaboration. The role often feels like running a startup within a large enterprise, on top of it, balancing governance with agility while continuously proving strategic value. GCC leadership requires influencing without authority, navigating cultural differences, and aligning multiple time zones toward a common objective. Question 10. How do you future-proof a GCC organization? Sample answer: future-proofing begins with building learning agility into the organization. Technology cycles will continue accelerating, so the ability to learn becomes more important than any specific skill. I focus on developing platform ownership, investing in digital engineering capabilities, and creating a culture where continuous reskilling is expected and encouraged. Ultimately, sustainable GCC success comes from adaptability. The organizations that thrive are those willing to reinvent themselves repeatedly. So we've gone through about 10 questions now. You might have noticed that the way they're asked can change, but the intention behind them is pretty much the same, and they're trying to understand your experience and how you show up as a leader to support others. My last piece of advice would be, just be real. Don't rely too much on memorized answers. It's good to prepare, but what really makes a difference is when you speak from your own experiences. Use real examples from your life, and that's what people connect with. A script can help you get started, but your best answers will always come from within. Let's understand interviewers' point of view as well. As we know, big organizations are moving beyond cost arbitrage toward innovation, leadership, and global influence. Leadership interviews today are not evaluating how efficiently you manage operations, in fact, they are evaluating how effectively you shape the future of the organization. If you are preparing for a GCC leadership role, shift your narrative from delivery management to business transformation, from execution to influence, and from control to empowerment. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to continuing this leadership conversation with you in the next session.